Hello guys, welcome to another video. I hope you're having a really great weekend. I just finished this new piece of my night character. Her name is Ebba, for those of you who are not familiar with her. She's an OC that you've probably seen me draw before. But what I actually want to talk about while this time lapse is going on is actually kind of another topic. Maybe I'll touch on some stuff about this piece as we go, but I think I'll just let it go in the background while I talk about something that has been on my mind lately, which is the idea of patience when it comes to your art and your art journey, which is kind of two different topics, but I feel like it was applicable for this piece because lately I have been feeling like my artwork has actually been taking longer and longer to complete than it used to take. And that's weird because you would kind of expect that the more experience you get and the more skill you get, you would think the faster it would be for you to finish art, right? And I think that's true, but I think what also happens, or what can happen, is that your patience level can increase. Or maybe it's not your patience level, maybe it's actually your tolerance for certain flaws. I don't know if flaws is the right word for what I'm thinking, but your tolerance level to just like let things be when you know you have the skill to like fix mistakes decreases. And so in order for you to go back and actually fix mistakes or like push your piece to be like the best that it can be, you have to have a little bit more patience to sit and continue working on that same piece for a little bit longer. And I feel like maybe, or at least hopefully, that's why some of my artwork lately has been taking a little bit longer than it used to, is because hopefully it means that like my eye and my skill is developing so that I actually have less tolerance to just like let mistakes go. Of course, perfectionism in art is a really bad thing. And I know that lots of artists struggle with being perfectionists when it comes to their art, and that can really stunt your growth and it really can stunt your progress. So I'm not advocating that you be a perfectionist when it comes to your art. But what I am saying is that if you were like me and your art is not getting faster, take a step back to look at the pieces you're creating now. Because if I look at the pieces I'm creating now versus pieces I was creating a year ago or 2 years ago that seemed faster, the pieces I'm creating now tend to be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more polished. And so I think that if I were to go back and, try and match what I was creating a year ago, probably my process would be faster. But what has changed is that I no longer am satisfied to just let a piece be as it was, how I used to do artwork a year ago, 2 years ago, 3. I also wanted to talk about patience with the overall art journey. Something that's come up recently in Discord is the frustration of not feeling like you're making progress as quickly as you want to, even though you're studying so much and you are trying to acquire all of these skills when it comes to drawing. And often that frustration, it means you are kind of in the gap, which I'm sure most of you know what it is. But if you don't know what it is, I'll just quickly explain it. It's basically when you are learning art, or maybe even any skill, there's this kind of graph, two graphs that are happening, where there's your skill at like seeing or evaluating art, and that is on one wave. And then kind of opposite is your skill at making art. And usually what happens is your skill at seeing and evaluating art progresses faster. And so when that wave has progressed faster than your skill at making art, that's what we call the gap, because you can feel like really frustrated with your art because your skill at seeing and evaluating has gotten better. but your skill at actually executing and making the art hasn't caught up yet. So you're in this gap where it feels like, oh, I suck at art, where that's not actually true. You are actually still making progress. It's just kind of part of the cycle that happens over and over and over again. And then usually the times when you're feeling really good about your art, the graph is switched, where like your skill at making art has caught up, and then your skill at evaluating art is kind of below it again, and it will eventually come back up, and you'll repeat that over and over and over again. So the trick is how to kind of cope with when we're in these art low points, which can be really frustrating and really demotivating. Demotivating? Is that a right word? I think that's the right word. Demotivating when you're in these like gaps, because it can feel really frustrating. And then social media kind of makes that even worse, because you see all of these other artists who you feel like, oh my gosh, all my peers are making all this progress. They're producing all of this art. Why can't I move as quickly as they do? But the reality is that even though you're being flooded with art on social media, everyone's not as productive as it seems. Like, you are seeing tons of art from tons of different artists. It's not like you are seeing all of that art from one artist. So yeah, there's artists out there who are really quick at making art, but it's likely that, you know, all those people that you think are way more productive than you, it's actually not true. I mean, maybe, but like, maybe not as much as you think, because just being so flooded with art on social media, it really distorts our view of being kind of left behind. And it's really unfortunate, because that feeling of being left behind and like panicking about it, and I'm speaking from experience, it can kind of stunt your own creativity, and it kind of blocks you from your best ideas, because you can get into this really anxious, panicked state where your brain is actually not functioning on a level that allows you to get into a good creative flow, which is not what we want at all. So often when I'm feeling in this kind of low, it's a really good idea, if I've been working at stuff and like pushing, and I'm still feeling really bad about, you know, where I perceive myself to be in my art journey, it's a good idea to take maybe a night off. I know that it's kind of scary sometimes, like, oh, you feel like you can't take a break. And I know how it is. There's always things to be done. We're always busy. I know how it is, you guys. But it can be really rejuvenating, and it can grant you a bit of a fresh perspective to come back to whatever you were working on or your next piece after, you know, a little bit of time off. It doesn't have to be long, unless you really need a long break, then, take a long break. But it could even just be an evening, whatever it is you need. Something else is often when we're doing studies and we're trying to build skill, or maybe even you are doing illustration after illustration and they're all like big illustrations that, oh, you want to make each illustration better than the last one, and they're all, gonna be book covers. Every piece doesn't have to be some epic piece. I think that's a problem that I personally get caught in a lot, is I feel like every illustration needs to be at the same like high completion level. It's almost like you don't allow yourself to just like doodle and sketch for fun, which can be really detrimental, because sketching can be quite relaxing if you let go of those expectations, which is exactly what sketching should be. I mean, sketching for study, of course, you should be really focusing and learning. But if it's just kind of doodling for fun, that can be very relaxing. And sometimes what I have to do to like force myself to doodle for fun is maybe not even doodle digital art. Maybe not even doodle in a sketchbook. Sometimes I just need to like doodle on some lined notebook paper, like I'm back in, I don't know, math class, high school math class, not paying attention, because that's exactly what I used to do. Or like, basically lowering the bar when it comes to expectation and media. Like I never expect anything amazing to come out of a drawing that I doodle on a lined piece of notebook paper or a sticky note. And that just lets me just kind of freely doodle for fun without those pressures. Something else that I think can be helpful, and this is going to sound familiar because I've talked about it, I feel like a lot lately, because I've been using it a lot lately to try and like help myself in my own journey, but letting go of control of how people are going to react to your art, how it will be received, and not even that. Also letting go of control over kind of where you're at right now, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying, just like toss everything in the air and like, oh, I don't control anything. But what I'm saying is you can't control the past, and the past is what, it has determined where you're at now in your skill level. You can't actually change the skill level that you're at right now. All you can do is work with the tools you have at the moment. Of course, you can do practice and studies to increase your skill level for the future, but you can't change what's happened in the past as far as, oh, I wish I had studied more. I wish I had done this or that. Like that's not really productive to do. So the best thing to do is enjoy the moment where you're at right now. And if that means doing studies, or if that means taking a moment to like doodle, or maybe pursue what you're passionate about. That is something that is really important, you guys, is remember in your art journey to continue drawing what you are interested in and passionate about, even if no one else seems interested. I think you will be surprised. There might be more people interested in what you're passionate about than you think, because your heart and soul will go into it. So still continue to draw what is interesting to you, and just endless studies can burn you out really quickly. So make sure you're having a good balance. And I really just wanted to give you guys a little bit of encouragement as well, that even if you're feeling in an artistic low, of course, some external factors can be part of that, especially if you're battling mental illness. I totally understand that makes it especially hard. But if you are just kind of, say you're just in this kind of gap and you're feeling frustrated temporarily, I know it can feel like it's not temporary, but if you keep going, your skill, you are getting better. You are improving, even if you don't see it right now. You will see it in, a couple months, a year. You will look back at the art you're doing now, and you will see that there's been improvement from now until, 6 months from now, if you keep going. So you guys can do this. I believe in you. And whether it's art or music or whatever your creative pursuit is, or maybe it's just life in general, I don't know. You got this, you guys. I believe in you. And I hope that you have a really, really amazing rest of your day. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you later. Bye.